Okay, in this video, I'm going to cover the installation instructions to get set up for the mono class I taught, which is laser printing video onto 16mm film. So I'm just going to go through all the instructions here and sort of talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls you might run into, that sort of thing. This is set up for people with Macs. If you do not have a Mac, please email me and I can try to get you set up on Windows, but I'm not super familiar with Windows that well. So we'll see what we can do. I will cover another video on how to actually use the tools, and then yet another one on some advanced techniques. But for this, we're just going to cover installation instructions. So obviously for folks who are already in my class, this is maybe a refresher. For some of you that are taking the class in the future, like this will be helpful. And for anyone that's just watching on YouTube, maybe you'll find some value in this. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple steps here. So the first thing is we need to do is we need to download our templates. So you'll just go to this URL. And I'll post this entire link in our in the video notes as well. So there are two different files here. So you can either print on 16mm or 35mm. I don't recommend printing on 8mm. It's just too small. Most people will probably use 16. It's a little bit easier. You'll have more volume essentially for the amount of printing you do. 35 will look a lot nicer, but it will take a lot more splicing. So you will just download one of these files. As of today, V3 is the latest. I will upload the latest version here as well with dates on everything. But as of today, V3 is the latest. This is what it looks like. So I'll cover how to use this template in a later video. But for now, you just want to download this. So just go ahead and hit download. And that will download as a PDF. You can also download the 35 if you want. But for now, I'm just going to assume people want to do the 16. Next step is to download the Adobe Illustrator scripts. So this is actually one of the areas where people get stuck a little bit. I'll talk through the way to approach this one. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on, again, let's go to the 16 one. We'll click on the link here. And you'll see this just opens a raw.githubusercontent.com. Don't worry about what all this means. Just know you need to save this somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit File, Save Page As. And then let's just save it to our desktop because we'll move it later. One thing that is pretty common is you actually just want the .jsx extension, but I believe in Chrome and very likely in Safari as well, you can't actually remove it. So we're just going to download it as a .jsx file and then we'll edit the name later. So downloaded. And then you'll just come here in Chrome at least and just go to Show in Finder. That's the quickest way to find this. And here's my file along with my very, very messy desktop. You'll just hit enter on the file name and then you'll just remove the .txt. And if it works correctly, it should ask you this. It should say, do you want to keep .txt or use .jsx? You want to use .jsx, that is correct. If you don't see this message, we'll find out in a later step if it works or not. There's a chance you have to do something else. I don't want to record that step here because it's pretty messy or like it takes a while. But if you do run into an issue where you can't seem to, in Illustrator, you can't seem to find this file or it won't let you select it, email me and I can hit you up with those instructions. Okay, so next step is let's move this in the right place. So I should have mentioned this earlier. You do have to have Adobe Illustrator Adobe Illustrator installed for this. As of today, I use Illustrator for all of this work. There may be a future date where I move off of Illustrator, but for now, it just makes things a little bit easier, especially when we get into more advanced techniques like doing direct animation and other things. So you should have Illustrator installed. What I recommend you do is you just go to Applications, and you'll go to Columns, and then we'll just go to the latest version of Illustrator, and then you should see a folder called Scripting. And inside that folder, you may not see anything else. You may see sample scripts. You might not see another folder. What I recommend you do here is make a new folder. And this is where they may ask you for your password. So I'm just going to put in my password real quick. And then you'll have to name your folder. So I'm going to name it Mono since that's the class. That's the place we're teaching this. I think it's a little bit easier to do that. And of course, it asks me for this again. And of course I put in my password wrong. Maybe your security settings are different. It's not asking you. It's okay if it doesn't, as long as you can make a folder. And it has to go inside scripting, or like I recommend it goes inside scripting. So now what we want to do is we just want to drag our file from over here into this folder. And that's all we need to do. So at this point, we should now have our .jsx in here. And if you want to do the 35, you can do the exact same process. Download it from GitHub, rename it, and then move it into this folder. Okay, now for the fun stuff. We've downloaded all the simple things, and now we're going to start installing code. Again, this is not, I would say just follow along with my directions. You can pause the video, you can come back to it, rewind, check out what I do. But just try to follow exactly what's going on here. So next thing we need to do is we need to go to the FFmpeg URL. I'll explain in a later video about what FFmpeg does. It's basically a tool that allows us to operate on video. Now you'll come to this page. The link you want is this one here. So it says the download a zip. So go ahead and click download a zip. Shouldn't take more than a couple seconds to download because it's pretty small. And you'll go show in Finder again. And you'll just double click this. And it will create a little file called FFmpeg. That's all you need. So we're going to move this into our folder next. So I recommend going back to these instructions. I will often go back to them just to find everything. So you're going to open up the Finder app. And you're going to say go to folder. And then I've already got this in here, but you're just going to type in /usr/local/bin. If it says it can't find it, so for example, if I go back to go to folder, if it says something like this doesn't exist, what you can do is you go to your local folder. Let's do that. And then you'll make a folder called bin. So in here, you'll make a new folder, and I'll go through all the password stuff again. You'll make a folder called bin. Then you'll double click into bin, and then you'll see I've already got FFmpeg in here, but I'm just going to drag it in again anyway. Where did it go? Where did it go? Downloads, FFmpeg, date added, FFmpeg. So just drag this into your bin. And in my case, I've got this whole message here that says, do I want to replace it? Replacing it is fine. And I'll have to put in my password again because I have very tight security on this computer. So you may not have any of these things in your bin folder. You might have just FFmpeg. That's fine. I've got other stuff in here because I use the tools. But the important thing is you just have FFmpeg in there. So again, that goes in the /usr/local/bin folder. And those directions are here if you need to double check them. Okay, now we need to download a couple helper applications. So we're going to go back to our folder here, which you can again access just from this link. So we'll go back to this folder and you'll see this print_vid_tools.dmg folder file, and we're going to download that. And again, because .dmg file, which is an installation file, Drive will basically say hey, you're sure you're going to do this. Promise you there's nothing harmful in here, so you can download it anyway. And then we're going to show in Finder. And we're going to double click on this. And this now opens this folder of applications. These are two applications. We'll use them in the next step of our video. But for now, all I want to do is I want to make a folder somewhere that you will usually find it. Since I am a terrible glutton for files in my desktop, I'm just going to drop a bunch of files here called mono. Maybe I'll call it Laserjet, just so that I know what I've got. So you're going to open that file. Again, you can put this wherever you want. You can name the folder whatever you want. As long as these two files are in that folder, that's all you need to do. You just can't operate on these files from inside of what is this DMG here, this print_vid tools. So now that those are moved out, we're going to go ahead and X out of this, and then we're going to empty or eject this DMG file. Okay. There's one more step I want to go through here because this is a thing that's probably going to happen quite often, and I want to go through it before we hit install. So first things first, I'm just going to find a very, very short video. I happen to have a very short video on in my downloads folder already. So again, maybe find something that's super short. This is a 2-second video clip. You can't even see it here because it's off screen. This is a 2-second video clip. Very short. We'll talk about this more when we do the actual steps to install this, but make sure it's a short video. If it's a long video, you might run into issues. So what you're going to do to start this process, again, I'll go through this a little bit more detail, is you're actually just going to drag this video file onto one of these applications. So for the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop it on crop 4.3, and you should get this error message. So this error message says this can't be opened because Apple cannot check because it's malicious software. Basically, I wrote these applications, but because I didn't sign up through the Apple developer program or whatever, it doesn't think these are safe software. I promise you they are. There's nothing going on inside them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hit OK, and then we're going to actually go, you can open this here. What I recommend you do first is go to your system preferences. So let's go to system settings. Oh, I guess it's called, so it's called system preferences if you're on an older version of Mac. I just upgraded to the newest version. It's called system settings. What you're going to go through is you just need to find privacy and security. So on an older Mac, it may look different. You might have a grid of icons, and they all look like, they all the same name. So it should be privacy and security. In this version of Mac, you will scroll down to about here, and you'll see security, and it'll say crop 4.3 was blocked from use because it is not from an identified developer. You're going to hit open anyway, and then you're probably going to have to put in your password. And now it says, hey, do you want to open this? Yes, I want to open it. And now it says FFmpeg cannot be opened because the developer cannot be verified. And you say cancel, and then you say OK. And then you'll see back on this screen, you see FFmpeg was blocked because it's not from an identified developer. You're going to say allow anyway. Now we can finally come back over here, and we should be able to drag this onto crop 4.3. And you say open. And sometimes the first time this runs, it doesn't work. So you will do, oh, okay, it did actually work. So you'll see this actually duplicated this file, and it changed it with the name of crop. I'll cover all that in a little bit, or in a different video. But for now, we know it works. So it turns out this exact same process is going to happen when you try to drag this onto video to frames. It's going to say, you can't do this, malicious software. I promise you there's nothing bad in it. You're going to hit open, and you're going to go back over to system settings. And you'll see here video to frames was blocked from use because it is not from an identified developer. You're going to say open anyway. And it's going to give an error message because that just happens the first time you run it. I don't know why. For some reason it does. I'll have to look into that. We'll do this one more time. We'll drag this onto video to frames. And now you'll see it create a folder with the same file name, and inside there are a series of images. Okay, so at this point you are done installing everything. So once you got through that security process, which is the biggest hurdle, you're actually fully installed. So at this point you can make sure that everything's working, and then I'll release the next video in just a couple days, so you can keep an eye on how to actually use it. But you can probably sort of see like what the idea here is, right? So you take a video, crop it to 4.3 because that's the right proportion for 16mm film, and then convert it to frames, and then we're going to do some fun stuff in Illustrator to actually turn it into our template. So that's it for now. If you do run into issues, please feel free to email me or message me over Slack. I'm happy to try and answer any questions I can. For folks in my mono class, I'm happy to set up a one-on-one time with you to sort of get stuff installed, since that's the point. For everyone else, I can do the best I can over Slack or over email. Thanks, and I hope this is helpful.